Hi everyone, this is Heather Lawtonen from the Flourish.Academy. This is episode 275, and today we're talking about contracts and weddings and events where a client pays in full prior to the event. So the question is, if the client cancels the event, do you refund any, all, some portion of their money or not? And if you are new to photography and you're wondering why we would even talk about this type of thing, it's because you have typically something in your contract to protect you when you schedule something that's really far in advance. So if you book a wedding a year or 18 months in advance, you are obviously blocking that off of your schedule, and there's an opportunity cost involved. Excuse me. You're saying no to something else in order to retain that date for the client, and that costs money. So there's a non-refundable retainer, and then there are payments involved. Typically for most people doing weddings or other types of events, full payment is required at least 1 month prior to the event. I have my contract in front of me, and I just want to read you this little snippet. I have retainer and payment. Client shall make a $1,000 non-refundable retainer payment to secure services with the photographer. In accordance, 50% will be due 6 months prior to the wedding date, and the remaining 50% will be due 1 month prior to the wedding date. Sales tax applicable, okay. And then I have a section on cancellation, and it says, in the event of cancellation of this agreement, the retainer will not be refunded. That's like period, not happening. If cancellation occurs with less than 6 months notice, the client shall forfeit all monies paid as full and complete liquidated damages, not as penalty. The photographer requires written notification signed by the client prior to the wedding date. I've been photographing weddings for about 15 years, and I'm not sure how many cancellations I've had. Probably maybe 5 to 7. It seemed to me like I was getting cancellations about once every 18 months. So once every year and a half, I would have someone cancel. This has been in my contract since the beginning. By the way, I didn't make this up. I worked with a lawyer to get that clause on cancellation. And essentially it says that as you make payments to me prior to your event, any payment you submit at that point becomes non-refundable no matter what happens. If you cancel the event, then I retain that money, as I quote, the client shall forfeit all monies paid as full and complete liquidated damages, not as penalty. So we're not penalizing the client, but we are also not giving their money back. Okay, that's the contract. And by the way, if you want to run your business like a real business, you should have a contract, you should have terms and conditions, and you should stick by them. They're there for a reason. I am not into situational ethics per se. That is, all of my decisions are made before I encounter them. So I have things already planned out. So when a situation occurs, I don't have to rely on my emotions or how I feel about something. It's in black and white, it's in the contract. Okay, that being said, I love to play like I'm hardcore. But the truth is, I have a heart and soul. And when somebody calls and cancels due to, say, a health issue, what is your approach for that? Or what would your approach be if you faced that? Would you give them back all of their money? Would you give them back a portion of your money? You really can't run a business if you're writing checks to clients, and I am not in the business of writing checks to clients. But what if? What if it were something serious? What would you do? I am curious and serious about that question, non-rhetorical. I'd like you to post a comment. If you've had this happen, then we'd love to hear what you've done. It helps others. And if you haven't, what do you think you would do? I've had multiple different types of cancellations. I have had cancellations that have happened before the 6 month mark prior to, which means they had only paid the retainer. That's non-refundable. That's just a done deal. And besides that, if they did ask for their money back, who are you going to give it to? Because the bride and groom both signed the contract, and you might think you have an idea about who paid for what, but that's really not your judgment call. So that's where it starts to get confusing, and that's why you typically would not want to give your money back to a client. Okay, that's a pretty easy one. If they cancel somewhere between the retainer period and the 6 month payment, That's pretty straightforward. No. Okay, but let's say they've paid the 6-month payment, or they've paid in full. They've paid in full, and it's a month or closer to their wedding, and they call off the wedding. They cancel it for whatever reason. What have you done? What would you do? It's really challenging to say. I mean, the business part of me, I cannot refund that money because there's an opportunity cost. Not only did I miss that event, but now I've missed the opportunity to network and meet with 150 to 200 new people that I would run into or encounter at that wedding. So it's not just about having that date, but I could have booked a wedding for that date and I didn't. I would be really curious to hear what you guys think about this. And if you're commenting right now, I can't see it, which is a bummer because I would love to hear it. But let's up the ante on this a little bit. I think if someone cancels their wedding and it's like, it is what it is, and you don't have any idea why, they've broken up, something happened, you stick to your contract and move forward. But what if someone comes to you and says, we have to cancel the wedding because of a very serious health issue? Oh, boy, that makes it very challenging, doesn't it? If it's a health issue, and I've not had that, I haven't. If it's a health issue and maybe they're just postponing the wedding, then I would gladly forward the monies already paid to that future event. That's a no-brainer, easy. If we're going to do that, provided I'm available, then that's absolutely what we would do. I'm not sure what I would do if they requested their money back. And by the way, don't assume that because someone cancels their event, they are requesting their money back. This needs to be a phone call followed up with email. Everything needs to be in writing and documented. But I wouldn't go falling all over myself to offer someone money back until or unless they asked for it. So sometimes when an event cancels, the photographer just assumes that they're going to want their money back. But that may not be the case at all. Most likely they have read and understood the contract and they're not expecting their money back. That doesn't mean they won't ask for it, but I don't think they would expect it. So what I would do in the situation of health is maybe have a phone call and ask what I could do for them. Could we forward that to a future event? Could I provide some other type of photography service, even if it wasn't a wedding? Could we do some family portraits? Could we apply that? I would find a way to do something for them. I'm just not sure about writing a check to a client. That being said, if you are a wedding photographer, you should always have at least 2 full wedding payments in your savings account in case something like this happened and you felt the need to do it, but you certainly wouldn't have to. What are your thoughts on this? I'd love to hear it. The business side of me says there's a contract for a reason. Contracts are always in place to protect you and the client. They are mutually beneficial. There are probably going to be some cases where the only one that I can think of that has me even questioning this is something related to health or deployment or even death. Obviously, something awful happens, then how would you approach it? And I'd love to hear your comments. Please like, share, comment, let me know. I'll see you in the next video.